Ladies and gentlemen, you have asked me, and I am now delivering the youth soccer playbook, but in the girls format. So specifically for girls that are going through the system with a long-term dream of becoming a professional player. So this is going to be like a recap version where I'm going to kind of highlight the key objectives, the phases, and everything that goes in between this. If you have any further questions in regards to the playbook, I highly recommend as well you read or listen to or even watch, because when you get to watch this one, it's with all the content, and I think you're really going to enjoy that. So you'll have access to everything, and I'm going to highlight the key points and the very small, it's small, tweaks that you would do differently in my opinion and what I would do with my daughter between the phases with the youth soccer playbook. And if you think this is of a value to someone, or like if you found value from this, I would greatly appreciate you sharing the youth soccer playbook, whether it's the audio version, the text version, the video version, to somebody to help them with this information. And again, I think it's game changing. So that's why I recommend it. I will be looking to my left because that's going to have all the notes that I need for this to do the 5 phases, because you have the preface, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. And remember, these are the exact steps that I would take with my daughter going through the system. So keep that in the back of your mind. I hope it helps you. I hope you find value from it. And without further ado, let's jump into it. So obviously, the first phase is the pre-phase. This is from birth to 4 years old. And really, the overriding theme here is to introduce football to the child and to my daughter and say, listen, we're going to introduce the concept of football. You're going to watch. And actually, before I tell you what they're going to do, I'm going to give you the completion targets, and I think that will help you understand the points and the transition moments we want to work on. So first is we want to build comfortability with dribbling skills and core skill with the ball. So no passing, dribbling centered focus. We want to teach the child a language other than the native. So assuming that I continue to live in the United States, we are not going to teach the child English at home. They're going to learn English through school. I think this is very important, because right away they have a challenge to overcome from the jump. And a lot of kids, bypass this by having everything given to them. Just for reference, my daughter will suffer a lot, and she'll have to deal with not knowing how to speak to people within her own country. More than likely, her first language will be Spanish or Portuguese, probably Portuguese, but just for reference, that's what's going to happen. We're going to teach in this phase the basic, literally the basic version of 1v1. And that's it, basic. And I'm going to expand further shortly. Like I said, they're going to learn the native language through school. So preschool, kindergarten, first grade, and I'll touch on this shortly. And introduction to juggling if mentally and physically possible. It might not be possible, but the goal would be to introduce it, again, on a very basic level. And really the biggest key with this is watching lots of football. This can be with practice, this can be with games, this can be with whatever the circumstances, training, anything like that, but it is through football. So watching hours upon hours of football. And here's why. And you watch like South American players or European players, and many of them have obviously ridiculous skill, but I think something that's misaligned in this country is our kids start football later, or at least watching and understanding the game later. Whereas kids in South America and Europe, they're being exposed to football essentially from birth, because mom and dad either play or they watch it religiously. Obviously, we don't have that kind of culture here, but I think that's huge for players, especially female players, in this case my daughter, to be exposed to as much football as possible. And that way she can start seeing, watching, and learning, because children at this age are literally sponges. They're absorbing everything around them, especially in the environment that they're seeing. So that would be very key for us, is exposing them to as much, or her, to as much football as possible. Okay, now I want to touch up on the comfortability with dribbling and core skills. We are not going to teach any passing, literally zero passing. There will be absolutely zero passing. So everybody usually says, hey, pass it or kick it off the jump. We're going to say touch, pull, push, shift, slide, push, dribble, all those little details to get the child in the mind, hey, the ball for my daughter is yours at this age, and phase 1, the ball is yours. You need to dominate, master, manipulate, touch the ball. And that's just so important for us because you have to be able to build the confidence within a player with the ball at their feet. Otherwise, they're not going to have the skill set. And that's obviously a red flag. But we want to develop that. And that will be done with touching the ball. We'll have a ball in the house more than likely, or at least in the backyard, but I'm sure in the house, where the player, my daughter, can touch the ball as much as humanly possible. And again, it's not passing, it's dribbling, it's pushing, it's pulling, it's shifting, it's sliding. Those key phrases, okay? Next one, again, would be once we develop those core skills, we're going to teach the basic concepts of 1v1. And this would literally be like my daughter versus me, my wife, uncle, nephew, whatever the situation is, a family member. And the objective would be, the first part at least, would be to keep the ball versus the opponent. So if she's playing against me, it's me versus her. She has to protect the ball. There's no goal to score. It's just keeping the ball away from me. And if I take it from her, I keep the ball away from her. And for me, that is the very basic level of 1v1. And that's what we want to teach, is just keeping the ball away from an opponent. If we're lucky and she has some unique maturity or mental ability, then we can add goals. But I don't anticipate that happening just because of their age and their level. And again, same topic with juggling. The introduction of juggling, if even possible at this phase, would be, for example, drop the ball and it bounces off the floor and then you try and use the shoelaces to pop it up. And that would be the goal of the pre-phase. And that's basically it. Again, if we're extremely lucky and the child at 3 or 4 years old can somehow juggle 2 times without the ball bouncing, that would be unbelievable. But that would be so rare, it'd be crazy. But just to quickly recap for you, dribbling skills, no passing, the first language other than native, so that way they struggle immediately to deal with not being able to communicate with people and having to overcome that hurdle, because we want to set in front of her the ability to overcome adversity and challenges that are going to arise. Because if somebody's going to be successful, whether it's in sport, whether it's in life, whether it's in business, you have to be able to overcome challenges that come every single day, whether in small quantity or big quantity. It's overcoming those barriers. And this with the language for me is so important, because right away she is going to struggle to deal with communicating with people. And they're not going to understand her. And that's great because she has to overcome that hurdle. Okay. Again, introduce the basic concept of 1v1, playing against somebody. And then she'll learn the native language, so English, through school. And then maybe introduce juggling. And then obviously, I mean, I'm talking hours upon hours of football, because you probably know this, but I watch a lot of football. So whether I'm watching training sessions, I'm watching the kids that I train, or the games that we have, or professional games, or collegiate games, whatever it is, I'm watching content of football, or futsal even. And she'll be in the same boat as that, thankfully, off the jump. But that's a key point with the pre-phase. And it's just, again, building the ability with the ball, overcoming adversity, and keeping the growth mindset open. And that is pre-phase. See you in phase 1. And again, if you find value from this, please share this with somebody, whether it's the video format, the audio format, the text format. If this has been helpful for you, it would greatly support what I'm trying to do, is give free content away to people to help them be educated. Because remember, I was in your guys' shoes. My parents didn't know anything about youth development. And here we are today with a huge problem, and I'm trying to help solve it. So if you could help share this, that would be amazing. And I'll see you in phase 1.